Over the last few years, astronomy has slowly been changing, but a big event happened at the end of June that I think is going to be like the nail in the coffin for the old ways of astronomy. You've got Hubble, you've got Arecibo, you've got James Webb. It's always been bigger is better in astronomy, but that's not the case anymore. Instead, things are changing to be more data with very good quality rather than the best or the biggest. And a new observatory that's just been switched on in Chile at the end of June is definitely going to change everything. So let's kind of talk about what's been going on with astronomy and where it's going next. So we've got the James Webb Space Telescope, which launched a couple of years ago, and this is probably one of the last ones of the whole bigger is better. The reason for this is James Webb is just so complicated to design and build and was so expensive. When James Webb launched, once it was kind of in the rocket and taking off, there was 49 single point failures. So that's 49 things that if they go wrong, the whole telescope won't work. That's just too high for something that you spent over 10 years building and designing, millions and millions of dollars building. So the problem is to try and beat James Webb, it's just getting harder and harder. Like, don't get me wrong, James Webb is going to get some amazing photos. It's already showing us things that we've never seen before. It's an amazing piece of equipment, but it's getting harder and harder to beat it. So this is where astronomy is having to change. And instead of doing bigger is better, it's all about more data. So a perfect example of this is Euclid, which launched in 2023. This was another space telescope. Compared with James Webb's 6.5 meters, Euclid is only 1.2 meters. So it's almost a sixth of the size of James Webb. But the difference is Euclid is going to try and take photos of a third of the sky, whereas James Webb is just doing really deep photos and, like, you know, zooming right in and getting some really, really extremely high quality ones. Whereas Euclid, like, it'll be very good, not as good as James Webb, but it'll still be very good. And that's okay. So let's kind of talk about the bigger versus more data. Like, what's the difference? What's the benefit of getting more data? The main thing is everything else is entering its big data phase. Astronomy is doing the same thing. So we want to be able to look for trends in data. We want to see galaxies when they're forming, when they're, you know, being born, when they're merging with other galaxies, when they're just living their life, when they die. Same with planets. We want to see planets being born. We want to see them getting ripped apart by their star. We want to see them, you know, like crashing into each other or creating moons or whatever it is they're going on. The only way you can do that is with the sheer volume of photos and observations and stuff like that. If you've just got things like Hubble, where it just points at one thing, James Webb is exactly the same. It just points at one thing, sits there for a while, takes a photo. You're never going to get this because you've got to get so lucky of the thing you're looking at has that going on. So this is where we need these, what we call survey telescopes and survey observatories, where they're just, you know, literally like someone doing a survey, going around asking lots of questions. They're just trying to get as much data as possible. The other thing as well is technology is much better than it's ever been, as I'm sure you all know. The thing is now, whereas before, you know, to make something like Hubble even work, or the Apollo rockets even work, it had to be such cutting edge science. Whereas now you look at like the SpaceX rockets, they're pretty routine rocket stuff now. They're not cutting edge and they can do the job. Telescopes and observatories and satellites are exactly the same. Our technology is so good that we don't need to keep going bigger and better every time just to get it to be able to work. Again, go back to the Apollo rockets, half of the early ones blew up during launch or during flight. But I say SpaceX, you rarely hear now of the routine SpaceX flights blowing up. Some of their test ones blow up from time to time, but that is where they're pushing the boundaries. So a pretty good camera is already amazing. You know, it's better than anything we had 20 years ago. So it doesn't have to be bigger and better every time. Okay, so the one that's changing everything is an observatory that's being built in Chile, and it's just been switched on last month. It's called the Rubin Observatory. This is a giant telescope. It's about 6 meters, so pretty big, but not the biggest, anywhere near the biggest on Earth. And its goal is to try and take photos of the entire southern hemisphere over the next 10 years. We're going to get so many pictures of planets, so many pictures of supernovas, so many pictures of galaxies. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Rubin is aiming to take photos of 20 billion galaxies in the next 10 years. So that's insane. We're going to get so much data. It's going to be amazing. I could talk about Rubin forever. They're taking terabytes of photos every day, so they're having to invent new ways of processing data because like no one can go through terabytes of data every day. They're going to get all that data within 90 seconds from the mountains in Chile to the database in the US. So they've had to invent new ways of moving data around as well. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty incredible. The other new one that's coming is a telescope called Foremost. This is one I worked on for like 5 years with my PhD, so I'm very familiar with it. Foremost is not like a normal telescope. So Rubin, it has a camera on it, but if you took the camera off, you could look through it and you could see pictures and stuff. Foremost doesn't work like that. So Foremost is what we call a spectrograph. So you might have done this in school where you shine light through a prism, it splits the light into a rainbow. That's how Foremost works. So if you're looking at a galaxy, the light from the galaxy will be split into a rainbow, but some of the rainbow won't be there. There'll be dark lines instead, where colors are missing. And this is because of elements and molecules that are present in the galaxy that you're looking at. So this can help us get a lot of information about what's up there. And this is how we learn that, there's a galaxy that smells like rum. There's a galaxy that smells like raspberries, or whatever other random facts we see, is using spectrographs because they can get so much more information. The problem is spectrograph equipment is expensive. And it's very slow normally. Like you can normally only point it at one thing and point it at something different. In all of human history up until now, we have looked at 1 million galaxies with a spectrograph. In the next 5 years, Foremost is going to look at 13 million. So it's going to get 13 times all of human history in 5 years. So we're going to get so much more information. It's going to be great. So what else have we got coming? So we've got Roman, which is launching in 2027. This is about the same size as Hubble. So that means it was cutting edge 35 years ago, not so cutting edge now. But the difference between Roman and Hubble is Roman can take much wider field of view photos. So it can look at a lot more things at once, whereas Hubble was very narrow, could only look at one specific thing. So that's going to be really great and get us lots of great images. A lot of people are really excited about that one. We've got Plato coming next year, 2026. It's got 26 different cameras and it's going to be looking for planets outside of our solar system. It's aiming to try and find 200,000 planets. Planets outside of our solar systems is kind of the sexy part of astronomy at the moment. It's what everyone wants to do because it's like, oh, maybe there's aliens. So everything's kind of moving towards that. The follow-up to Plato will be Ariel, which comes in 2029, and it's going to try and study 1,000 planets discovered by Plato in more detail. I should say all these dates will probably change. A bit closer to home, on the ground, we've got the Giant Magellan Telescope that's being built by the US. There's another telescope being built in Chile, and it's probably going to be looking at some of the stuff discovered by Rubin in a bit more detail. Lastly, a controversial one is the 30-meter telescope that's being built in Hawaii. It is very controversial because of the location where it's being built in. The Hawaiian people are not happy with where it's being built because it's a spiritual place, and they want it to be kept like undisturbed by humans, which is fair enough. It's their culture, their land, they should be able to make those decisions. So as of now, the US have shelved this telescope and are not moving forward with it. They're going to carry on with the Giant Magellan Telescope for now. A possibility for the telescope, for the 30-meter telescope to move forward would be if it moved locations. So La Palma in the Canary Islands have offered to take the telescope if the US come and build it. They have a lot of other telescopes in La Palma, and so they could support it. So that's the only way really I can see it moving forward. Okay, even though I've talked about how astronomy is changing to more data, there is of course always people that want to build bigger and better things. So let's talk about the kind of biggest observatory and the biggest telescope that's being built at the moment. You've got the ELT, which stands for Extremely Large Telescope. This is being built in Chile at the moment. It is about 39 meters. So compare that with Rubin, that's 6 meters. It's almost 6 times the size. This has been being built for quite a while, but it will probably finish the next couple of years. We'll see. The other one is, even though James Webb was so risky, you've got the replacement for James Webb, which even though James Webb was incredibly risky, took a long time, went way over budget because of how complicated it was, someone out there wants to build a bigger and better one, of course. So the replacement for James Webb is called Louvois. It's being built by NASA at the moment. It's currently in the design phase, and there are currently 2 designs floating around at the moment. So you've got the first design that's about 8 meters in size. So that's bigger than the 6.5 meters at the moment. The second design, because Americans are Americans and they can't just beat it by a little bit, would be 15 meters in size. So it'd be almost triple the size of James Webb as it is now. We'll have to see what happens with that. Who knows when, if it will ever get launched. We'd probably have to have some quite substantial progression in terms of mechanics and stuff like that to just try and fit a telescope that big in a rocket. Or maybe you could put it in two and then like when they're up there, just kind of slot them together. But again, that'd be incredibly complicated. Who knows? So the other thing I haven't talked about is there's another growing movement in astronomy at the moment to not build telescopes and not build any more satellites, no more telescopes, observatories, anything like that, or at least slow down how quickly we're building them. It's like, you know, all the ones I've mentioned are coming within the next 2 or 3 years. Like the rate we're building these is incredibly high. Astronomers have the largest carbon footprint out of all careers in the world. We're building all these facilities, we're launching all these rockets, traveling all over the world to go visit the sites and locations and stuff. There is an alternative to all of this, and instead of building new things, you can go back through old data. So the European Space Agency is really encouraging this. So they are willing to give funding to people that want to go out and do this. They have databases from all their satellites, all their observatories. And what they're saying is, you know, there is probably data in here that no one has looked at. Okay, it's not the new sexy instruments, but it's still very good. So they're trying to encourage people to go back through the data and try and see, because there might be observations relating to whatever it is they want to study. I saw a guy who gave a talk on this, and he was kind of saying about how he went trawling through ESA's data and he found like 200 meteorites that had never been discovered before. So there is a lot of discoveries to be had in there. So basically the moral of the story is astronomy is changing, same as everything else. Hopefully it's for the better. We don't need huge shiny things every year now. We'll just kind of have to see what happens. If you like this video, maybe you'll like my last video talking about how planets have different biomes and kind of go into a bit of detail on that. Turns out that Minecraft is a bit more truthful than Star Wars is with Star Wars' whole like one planet is one environment thing. But anyway, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.